Let's do a quick little sound check. See if you guys can hear me. Whoops. All right. Put the scanner across. Let's see here. All right, I can hear myself on the test one, so sounds good. All right, cool. All right, so obviously I just saw this a few seconds ago. It came out, I guess, about 43 minutes ago. Pretty interesting, right? The leader of China actually went to the Wuhan province, and basically the quote reads as such: China has defeated the coronavirus. So pretty interesting, right? I mean, the world's ending. Supposedly, again, day 2 of the world ending, but today was like kind of on the opposite spectrum. It was kind of like good, right? Like it was down, up, left, right, sideways. I mean, it's going all different directions, but interesting enough. Why is he still wearing a mask? They do it for pollution. That's why he's wearing a mask. But again, I could still see him wearing a mask in that area. But no, but typically in Asian countries they wear masks not for prevention of disease, but for pollution. Yeah, pollution. Yeah, it's horrible. Like 3 of the 5 rivers, like their main rivers, there are polluted beyond repair. They're gonna run out of water before they run out of anything else. That's why they actually have actually a very huge water desalination um, program because they know that they're gonna run out of water. Designer masks everywhere in China. But anyway, very interesting, right? I mean, we're talking today, and again, this is just one of the big news stories for today. One of the other big news stories is where is it over here? Trump is considering using emergency funds to bolster the economy against virus. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now, technically speaking, our economy is very, very strong, right? Non-farm payroll blowing numbers out. Unemployment is at the lowest it's basically ever been at 3.5%. What is he bolstering, right? He's just trying to crank this thing as much as he possibly can. It's crazy. Meanwhile, China's on the other end. Although I did hear an interesting commentary today talking about how China is past, right? They're seeing all the production going up, but basically at this point, it's going to be more of a demand side because again, if countries are, not purchasing things or not going out and not doing things, it's more the consumer side. So China, because they were first, they're past, but they're going to have a little bit more of a delay before they kind of come fully back online because of obviously the contagion effect in other areas. So, but interesting enough, I mean, basically 8 weeks, China's more or less done, right? Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, the rest of the world gets to get it now, but we know that it is a short term type situation, and how much can go bad in 8 weeks is really kind of the big question. And by jacking the rates lower, creating this emergency funds to bolster it, it's kind of like, listen, it's not even here yet. I also heard that there is a drug that they're saying it should be the very beginning of next month that the clinical data comes back. It's already being used in China. They are allowed to use things in experimental stages, but it's already being used there that we could actually get the reports as soon as 2 to 3 weeks. If you guys remember back, like, oh, it could take 18 months, and then somebody was like, oh, it could take 8 to 12 months before we had something on market. And now, meanwhile, we're seeing a drug that's already actually being used, and we'll see the public data coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, again, a lot of hype. But I don't know. All signs seem to be showing that, listen, you're going to get past this. You're going to move on. And yeah, yeah. Um, Oil, though. Oil is pretty crazy. Yeah. Don't know. Oil, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. I didn't get to listen to it, but there was somebody was saying that, they were talking about the rift between Saudi Arabia and Russia. I thought that was pretty interesting. I was like, is it really a rift between those two, or is it just Saudi Arabia saying, hey, listen, price is dropping, we need to get paid. We got bills. And I don't know. Thought it was pretty funny. Oil just rallied. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, that's one of those ones that it's kind of like, yeah, it's gonna go up, down, left, right, sideways. Yeah. And a lot of that too is probably because of this, Sean. Again, you're setting your leader to those areas. It's past. That means production can come back on, and that means demand will start to rise again. So I'm not necessarily surprised by that. All right. Besides that, nothing else, right? Market today. You had some big movers, right? Some biggies. Euro dollar, again, under the ATR. Okay, nothing really going on here. Obviously, pound dollar, huge number. Very, very big. Dollar yen, huge number. But interesting enough, let's take this across and go over here. About its ATR, about its ATR. A little bit above its ATR, obviously below. And then pound yen, 35. I mean, yesterday this was up in the 200s, and it's kind of like, whoa, 36? What happened? What just happened? But again, you guys are seeing the the dollar over here, right? Dollar strength coming back into the markets. Pretty, pretty steady. And again, this 61 here in dollar CAD, you can see a lot of that has been retraced. Why? Again, because of oil, most likely because of the demand story. If this is, coinciding with what happened with him going, Xi Jinping going back, then yeah, yeah. So pretty interesting. So going to tomorrow's going to be an interesting story. So we have some pound numbers early in the morning. The forecasts are picked to be lower than the previous. They're both considered orange, but again, that could definitely move the pound. The annual budget release, that'll be interesting to hear because thus far they have not really, excuse me, they haven't really put too much stock into the coronavirus, right? They say we're not going to lower rates, we're going to wait and react as we need to. But again, they were already on the weak side of things, so we'll see. I don't know. It'll come up in the budget statement, I'm sure. The language is what's going to make a difference, and we'll have to wait and see kind of what their kind of end result, like what their opinion is on it and how much weight they're going to, actually put into that. And then at 8:30 tomorrow morning, we start with CPI. We have core CPI, we have regular CPI. Both of them, regular CPI is expected to be slightly lower, and core is supposed to be kind of dead on. And then obviously, Treasury Secretary is speaking tomorrow, and he'll probably also mention some type of coronavirus release. Like I said, all these guys are loving this because if they can be the ones that crafted something that saved the economy, then again, their stock has gone way up. You know, especially with elections coming around, right? Then we have crude oil. So crude oil, the forecast is to be a little bit higher than before. We'll see with that number. I don't know. I think this one's going to be a funky one because a lot of oil prices now is based off of kind of this war going back and forth, and I think because it's more of an issue of basically producing more and saying that they're going to increase the volume. It'll be interesting to see what the oil inventory reports are tomorrow. See what type of a spike we can get off of that one. And who knows? I mean, the market could be up huge tomorrow. It could be up, it could be down huge tomorrow. That's what it's been like this week. We'll see if the volatility is starting to level out. Now, last night we didn't cover the scanner because literally everything was showing a setup. Now, tonight, a little bit different. Even though we have some big movers here, a lot of stuff is rather tame. Looking over here in the majors, you can see, what do we got? One setup is an uptrend setup inside of the dollar CAD. And that's only because we got a pullback right now in the last last hour. But you'll see consolidation all the way down the board. In the Euro basket, kind of the same thing, right? I mean, four consolidations, one anchor break to the top side. Again, the Euro pound, right? Euro pound, which is interesting because, again, we're seeing a little bit of pound strength in other pairs, but, I wouldn't say it's a huge driver. Oh, excuse me, again, wow. Get some more drink. I am definitely tired though. I just got back from lacrosse practice, and I don't think me or the kids is like fully up to speed yet. We actually went over 2 hours today. Looking at the CAD basket. So CAD basket will be interesting tomorrow morning. Obviously, CAD is a proxy for oil, but you're seeing pound CAD uptrend setup, and dollar CAD, Aussie CAD uptrend setup as well. And again, that pair had been battling back and forth. And interesting enough too. Again, bringing up that Chinese and the Australian, basket, which is the next one over here. Australia was suffering a lot because of Chinese data. Now we're seeing Chinese kind of going, the Chinese worker going back, and we're seeing a lot of news that is all positive out of China. Does that mean we're going to have a return or somewhat of a rebounding effect in the Australian currency as well? So that's going to be pretty interesting. And again, what are you seeing? Kind of a mixed bag, right? You're seeing two down versus New Zealand, and then obviously versus the US dollar. You're seeing two consolidation versus the yen and the Swiss, and then an uptrend with the Aussie CAD. Okay. Pound basket over here on the right. Little consolidation, and for the most part, it's pretty kind of split, right? Half blue, half red, uptrend setup, downtrend confirmed. So, pretty interesting how it's kind of laying out. And then again, on the lower time frames, it is all, for the most part, consolidating. So, I mean, looking across at colors, again, the majors doesn't really necessarily matter, but on the European basket overall, you're seeing it's definitely a bit more bullish, right? We're seeing more blue up here than we are red. And, CAD is the same thing, right? With CAD, we're seeing, a little bit more blue. In the Aussie basket, we're seeing a bit more red, right? Definitely some more red. So, we'll see. I would say that the CAD weakness really across the board, because again, all these are CAD second position, and then you can see the red CAD over here. So basically red here, blue here for the most part, and I guess really blue and then red is what we're looking at. So still, two commodity currencies are the ones that are kind of getting beat up onto the downside, but very much different looking than what it was last night. Okay. Saudi released Corona, and now they want the oil squabble. Yeah, right. I've been hedging with Nathan's hot dogs. Nathan solves everything. Yeah, absolutely. Hot dogs are always good. Although, although speaking of Nathan's hot dogs, did you see that Joey Chestnut switched gears and went from hot dogs? Now he's doing hamburger contests. Thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if he feels like he has nothing to prove, so he's going to switch and change meats, or if it was just something else. But I actually saw that the other day, and I was like, wait, what? And yeah, they're like Joey Chestnut did like I don't know 14 hamburgers in a minute or something like that. It was like insane. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, go Joey Chestnut. Guy came out of nowhere, and everyone was like, "What was that? What was the other guy's name?" Like, um, man, it was like Takashi or Takahashi or something like that. Who was the guy before Joey Chestnut? He was a Japanese guy who was, it was funny, very skinny Japanese guy that was winning all those hot dog eating contests. Post that in chat if you guys remember who that was. I can't think of it right now. It's slipping my mind. Anyway, let's dive over to the charts. Let's go here. That's going to drive me nuts. What the heck that guy's name was? Go Google. All right, so starting off with the Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar today was down about 84 pips. It was down, then it was up, then it was down a little bit as far as the 60, 15, and 5. And you'll see we kind of had some bouncing back and forth. So this is that failure to go lower situation. You see that you took a little bit of a bounce off of it. There was a great trade set up earlier today that hit about 6:30 this morning. Well, about 6, right? We had a nice little basing, right? We came back, we pulled over, nice base down, went a little bit lower, and then came back looking for orders. Now, this zone, about 11, 12, which for what we've seen lately, not a bad little zone. Very, very clean. I like the way that the candle was. Again, the body definitely closed very low. Even though it was green, it was definitely a bearish candle sitting at the top. So big fan of that one. It barely entered. We hit our 1 to 3, 1 to 5, and that's when it actually collapsed. So it did go much farther down, ended up coming to this basing level, and it's really kind of off to the races. So, on the reversal side, there was a little bit of a trade here. We hit the bottom of the base, it came up, retested, and now has kind of been in the same area, though we do have a little bit of a lower high here. So at this point, I'd probably be a bit more conservative. I'd wait till we get back up to that zone again, and that zone is sitting at 65.77 to 65.89, and we're probably good for one more short out of that area. James, come on, what was the guy before Joey Chestnut? What was his name that used to win all the contests? One of you guys got to look it up for me. It will. If I spend 3 days in some parts, anything that I will. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So that is Aussie dollar. Okay. All right. So New Zealand. So going back up to it on a daily, you guys can see we talked about this last night. It drove all the way into the zone and started to pull back out of it. It closed and then kind of pushed to the downside, right? So it didn't quite make its 3 to 1. It did pull about 2/3 of the way up there on the daily, and again, not a bad zone to the downside. Risk was, let's see, total risk on this one was about 19. So not horrible for what we've seen. Again, that's a zone on the daily, and you can see on the 4-hour, we ended up coming down and then popping probably about 80% of the way back up to our first target before it turned. All right. As I mentioned before, guys, this is probably more of a target, but if you wanted to take something a little bit aggressive, we knew the price had gapped into that area. We need to be cautious, and that's exactly where it went to. And again, that was based off the daily, not the 4-hour. That's why it's a little higher here. So we didn't quite make it all the way back up again. At this point, if you were in that, I would just take myself out, take your 1-to-1 and be gone. Just close down the risk again at any time. The Aussie could definitely move. Aussie yen. So going up to a daily in this one, you can see, obviously, really, really big push down, a bit of a pullback. We didn't actually make it all the way back up to the gap. So on the 4-hour, you can see we had a small position in there. We were looking for it to get back over, and it obviously did not get back up. On the 1-hour, okay, this was kind of an interesting position here. You guys can see we were looking at the top piece. We did trigger. We did go down. Got about 75% of the way, and then it turned and came back up again. So this would have been another one of those ones you took a break even on and then just got out. Now, a new zone formed up top, which also coincides with what we're seeing over here. Okay, so again, you guys could have taken this smaller trade here. Okay, and this one would have triggered. Let's see. Here we are now. This one first started to trigger about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Right, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon where that one triggered. We did hit the 1 to 3 about an hour ago. So again, that was a much smaller kind of in the same context as trend. At this point, though, it is between a supply and a demand zone, so really not too much we can do in there. This zone at the bottom, I probably would not take a long off of it, as I mentioned yesterday. I mean, you got a pop here, a big push down, a little basing over here. So for me, I'd be more looking for this thing to break a little bit lower. Again, these two are from, higher. I think these are from like a weekly. And again, they've been pushed through, so we don't need to focus on as much. But so those were the two trade setups. Again, the one that we had sitting here that went 3/4 of the way, and then this one obviously ended up hitting for the full profit target. And we actually had marked this area off yesterday. So a couple different things you could have done with the Aussie yen, but right now, again, we're waiting for this top or bottom. If it does go up, depending on the time that this goes up, this is probably worth it. It barely touched the zone, so it's been confirmed that there are sellers up there. It may be worth a shot. And again, it's not a very, it's not a very big. Don't necessarily need a big move. You're talking about risk on this one of what, about 20? Yeah, just 21. 21. So again, you're getting 60 in the other direction, and your 5-1 is a pretty nice little trade. Kobayashi, yes, that's what it was. I knew there was a T in it, and it was yeah. Kobayashi, that was the guy. Yes, thank you, Ernest. I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, that was the dude that was like the original hot dog eating machine. And then Joey Chestnut came, and they're like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And then I think he beat Kobayashi like 2 or 3 times, and Kobayashi retired. And then remember there was the other one. There was the female, Sonya, the Black Widow or whatever her name was. I don't remember her last name either, but she was like the female version of Kobayashi. But I don't think she's winning anymore either. She's actually local to me. She lives like in Virginia. Pip chips coming my way. The man did it for the pip chips. Maybe. Maybe we'll see if you buy good tickets tonight. um, yeah, guys, pretty soon I'm getting super busy with lacrosse again. So Thursday night, I should be done my meeting, but we may actually start a little bit late. I have a county meeting this time. Last time it was a HOCO meeting. This is a county meeting this Thursday, to get the final schedule out, and hopefully this one doesn't take that long. But I told him I'm leaving early, so I can get back in time. But one of these days, I'm gonna give Ernest the login credentials, and I'm gonna make the Ernest do a chart school. And then we'll see. When Ernest is in charge of the pip chip giving out that night, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'll get messages. Ernest is not being fair with the pip chips. But yeah, we're gonna give Ernest control and make Ernest do a chart school pretty soon. Get on there. I'm gonna make him get on camera too, as he's got his girly vanilla Stoli and his cigar, and he's trying to do charts for you guys. That would be short class. Yeah, I know, right, James? James, I was going to offer it to you, but you already told me how long chart school would last. Like, we wouldn't even get the intro done, and you'd be finished. So, I figured Ernest may go a little bit longer. I just don't want to keep asking Eva all the time. I did buy her a sweatshirt, although now she likes the Pip Chip shirt. Yeah. But anyway, guys, so on this one, let's wait till it gets top or bottom. The bottom, I wouldn't be going long. I'd like this to kind of rally up a little bit overnight, hit, and let's go short again on this guy. Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD on the daily. Again, it launched itself off this daily, came back up, hit this little tiny little thing here, and then started to push back down again. We haven't really seen anything. I mean, again, it's just really been more or less been straight down. There was a wick over wick. Price had pushed all the way down, and it did kind of retest, although kind of a funky level to get entered into. And you guys can see it here, right? It marked the wick over wick here. There was the entry. If we were marking this one off, you did hit your 3-1 today. So it was another one of those trades. Aussie CAD, again, a little bit more exposed, but again, we were retracing a parabolic move. It went up. It put a failure to go higher. It put new levels in. We got a wick over wick. It pulled back to that zone, hit it, and then collapsed down again. And this one was triggering. You had a couple different entries in here. This was 9-10 o'clock this morning. You were able to get this entry. The first one was about 6 o'clock, and again, we got another chance to get in the 10 and 11 time frame before it eventually came down in this candle at 11 o'clock and ended up taking out the 1 to 3 target. Did not hit the 1 to 5, and again, a little bit far. But again, not a horrible little level in there, right? A little wick over wick, equidistant wicks, top and bottom. Gotta like it coming across, all right? Make Debbie do it. Debbie can run chart school. All right, so there's Aussie CAD. Looking at Aussie Swiss, okay, let's pop this up to a daily. You can see this one had the same, again, large shoot. We are on there. Everybody knows what happened on Sunday. We came back up, much smaller day on Monday. And then really today, we just had more consolidation. You guys can see this one as this levels across. We had drawn the zone last night, never got an entry into it, right? We literally stayed within that same range, and here's where we were last night, and here's where we are right now. So it did push down slightly and came back up again, so it did nothing, right? So zone is probably still valid. I'll move it here so you can see the chart a little bit better. Whoops. Right there. Okay. But right now, again, we're still consolidating. No entry inside of Aussie Swiss. Aussie Singapore. This one did not pull back as much as I thought. Again, huge spike down, push up, and again, it's still continuing to push to the side. 4 hour, again, we're seeing it kind of fall over. Again, another big move today, pulled up, did not go much higher. We'll see if this is kind of the end, if this is kind of its little peak in this retracement move. And again, we were really unable to get into any type of levels in this one. This one is still a bit risky. The spread is still over 3, so it's between 3 and 4, so still a little bit high. To be cautious with that guy. Debbie's laughing. All right, so CAD yen. So here's our CAD yen, all the way down, all the way back up, and now we're down a little bit. So talk about just some craziness moves, right? So here's what we got. Again, we know what we were looking for. We talked about waiting until we got back up to this, the original gap area. Where it was unable to go today, and I mentioned before, it was quite a haul, right? We needed to go another 100 and something pips. The daily ATR, if you know, is skewed right now is 149. So a bit to move, right? As you can see, we kind of have like this little, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. It has gone slightly higher, but for the most part, we're still going. This is where we were Sunday night, and this is where we are now. So from where we opened to where we are now, it's about about 50 pips total movement in this one. And again, this sucker's been moving, right? I mean, this is a 1 hour chart. Just that push down on Sunday night was 316 pips. So this one needs to equalize back into these size candles, and until we can get back up top, not necessarily interested in getting into CAD yet. Now, CAD yen will be a mover tomorrow for oil. Okay, if there is a big miss or there's any big OPEC news, Saudi Arabia news, that one will be moving. Looking at the CAD Swiss, right? The CAD franc. This one did kind of the same thing, but again, the retracement was a little bit more confined. Definitely did not break it out of that zone. Again, the highs are starting to get a little bit lower, starting to roll over, but also the lows. So it started consolidating. It's starting to pinch and form that triangle. Again, this one will also move. As you can see here, there was a little bit of a basing back and forth. The bottom side did hit and rallied all the way back up to the top. So, there has been some trades that you could have taken. This one went just slightly. Actually, I guess it is out. And I may have mentioned this last night. There was this one to the top side. Okay, so again, there was an entry, and again, it is bouncing. It does look like it's approaching the downside. The total distance between top and bottom here was about 104. Now, daily ATR is 98, but a lot of that is skewed right now. So again, take it with a grain of salt. But there's been your entries on the hourly. Okay, your hourly risk was actually not that bad either. This one is about 21, which again seems like a lot, but with what we've had lately, not actually too bad of a level. Sorry, I'm getting side comments. So again, we're closer to the top side than we are the bottom. If you guys wanted to play a channel back and forth, go for it. This one, the spread is between 2 and 3, so not horrible. Again, it is an off pair. It will move tomorrow morning. If we hear more European news as well, again, this will be one of those ones that also is affected, just because there'll be more of a flight towards the Swiss. Now, the one thing that will kind of mess with this one is if we start getting news out of the Swiss that coronavirus is there, our borders aren't shut down. Like I said, I mean, you can say we're not going to war, but you can't say that a virus can't come here. It doesn't work that way. So if we start getting some horrible news there, that will obviously send a contagion in. That will send this thing higher. Okay. Likewise, if Canada starts saying, hey, listen, we just found 500 cases in Toronto, yeah. Then obviously this one will have the same type of reaction. But for the most part, again, we're just consolidating, bouncing back and forth, and it's not, not a bad little range. There's some money to be made in there. Swiss yen. Okay. Swiss, then we marked off this area up top, and you can see it went just above the top of that area we had marked, and then went all the way back down again. It broke through the 1 to 3 and the 1 to 5. All right. Oh, got close. I'm sorry. It got close to the 1 to 5, and I mentioned that last night, but yeah, not a bad little area there, right? So there was your daily. Again, you pushed all the way down. We just missed the bottom, pulled up, and again, here all the way back up again. Here was your 4 hour. Now, the 4 hour did come up inside of that zone. This zone was quite large. This zone was about 45, 46 pips. It did retrace all the way back up again. So again, it did go to the top. It did come back down. And from that zone, I do not think. Oh, actually, it did hit the 1 to 3, and that hit about 12 hours ago. I looked at this one. I didn't follow it. I didn't trade this one. But that was something that we talked about last night. Okay. Here was the original setup, and you guys can see we missed it just by a few pips, and then it crashed back down to the 1 to 3 and the 1 to 5. As you can see on the lower time frame, it did not actually trigger based off of that top target. Okay. So one of those ones. It was close. Again, kind of an off pair. The spread on this one is going between 2 and 3 as well. Looked at it, but again, off pair and just didn't make any sense for me. And again, missed the entry up top. So cat twist again. We're now in the middle. This is not a bad zone. I still think this zone is valid. The 2 times it's pushed a little bit higher, it's gotten turned around pretty fast. So definitely, you could probably go for that as well. And we're looking at, you know what? I'll just do it this way. Oops. 112.61 to 112.58. If you guys are looking for that, you guys should be able to pull it on your charts as well, depending on the broker that you are looking at. All right. So that would be a Swiss. Let's go down and look at the euro. So euro for the day, where are we at right now? Down 64 pips from where we were last night. Okay. Looking at the daily, again, you guys can see we had this big. I mean, look at this. This is such a huge drop off that level, right? Huge drop off that level, right? Again, off that daily zone. Okay, going down to a 4-hour. You guys can see what it looks like here. Ended up hitting, getting a second entry, push, 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 dropping down to the 1. Okay, as you guys can see, we had a bit of a zone in here. Going back and pulling the time. Check it. You can see that there is one here at 9 a.m. and then the first one was at 4 a.m. in the morning. Okay, based off of this level. Again, it dropped, it kind of went sideways, pulled back, and then collapsed right through the floor. So nice little trade set up. Both of your trades were actually hit. This was the one that I was a little bit leery about going 1 to 5. I was afraid that being on the other side of that gap, I thought it would put us in a little bit of a strange situation, and it ended up hitting and bouncing the first time. But we did end up actually breaking through that 1 to 5 target if you guys were able to keep that on there. Obviously, once you hit that 5, definitely take it off. There was a little bit more room to run to the bottom, but I think that 1 to 5 target was pushing it a little bit. We ended up going through and running into this wick over wick here. Okay, so a little bit more risk in that one, but again, we talked about before that the dollar was so weak, and again, bouncing off that daily level, we expected it to turn around and come back down, and that's exactly what it did. Again, being high on the curve and getting into kind of that lower situation, as you can see, guys, we get any more type of red. I mean, it's obviously retracing now. Okay, if we're drawing from here to here, we're just barely in this top section. We have another day of dollar strength. We come into here, we're now sitting in the middle range. So that'll be another one of those trades that started in the high and ended up in the middle or even potentially the low. Okay, and again, that's why the curve is important. Getting you back to just the basics of trading. Okay, and that's how you use that side in the newsletter. Okay, so this one I still think we're a go. And again, on the 30-minute, you can see there's your entries and hits. So at this point, downside, there's nothing super explosive to me on the 30-minute. This zone is probably valid again for one more shot. Like I said, mark it off on yours. This one was actually drawn on the hourly. You guys can see it here done on the hourly. And it was 113.94 to 114, 13? Okay. Again, not a bad zone, not a big push to the downside. So top side, I think we're good here. Again, we have one backstop in the middle, one backstop up here. I think we are clear probably at least down here to 112.36, but most likely back down in here to the 111.34 as dollar strength comes back into the market. Okay. All right, so that would be euro dollar. Let's look at euro Aussie. Euro Aussie, yeah, you can see all the way up, all the way down, and then really not a whole lot of movement, right? 4-hour, we're consolidating. We had that level we drew last night. I think that was off of the hourly. Yeah, you can see it on the hourly. We would have triggered and started to go back down about halfway to target. That was one that we mentioned. And it's really just kind of floated in the area. I wouldn't say that this is trending whatsoever. Even dropping down to the 30-minute, I mean, you can see it just spent a lot of time. A little pop down, kind of came back up again, and again, bounced off that zone that we marked off here, and then up, and again, here to here. Let's see, we're right there, and right here is where we were last night. So from here up, you're talking about 26 pips. So very sideways movement. Really nothing to trade with the amount of volatility that one's had in it. EuroCAD. So EuroCAD went all the way up, turned and consolidated. Kind of the same idea, cutting back and forth. As you can see, there was a little zone in this one. We marked this off last night. Right on the hourly, you can see that it did actually trigger, did hit, and actually went to the top side. I'd have to draw this one here. Whoops. See that right there. And again, hit our 1 to 3 as well as our 1 to 5, which was before the top of the move. So Nice placement. Again, nice clean kind of entry down here to the downside. And again, now the indicator is actually drawing that as a level. So again, that was one trade you could have taken off of last night as well. Now the spread on this one is 2 to 3. Actually, earlier today it was actually more in the 3 range than the 2 range, but it looks like that is actually kind of more leveled out now. It's starting to go down, and it could be because it's overnight, but it could be because again we are one day less, and again it was not a horrible day today for the overall markets. Look at this one again. I still think this one will probably retrace back down again. The euro had so much strength. If we start seeing, some, oil pressure come back in, I can see this and be more bearish. This area has been hit a few times. I'd be looking for a break of this area, kind of that Harry Potter to the downside. Look for a break or retest, and then, that momentum breakout to the downside. All right. Euro Swiss. There's your daily, not really great. There's your 4 hour, just literally back and forth, right? It's more like that. And then hourly, you can see we're basically smack dead, kind of just flat, right? And it's like the little heart, the little boop, 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 and now it's starting to get flat. So no movement, Euro Swiss, obviously a no trade. All right, moving across to Euro Pound. Now this one is up 47 pips from where we were last night. You can see this one, again, it's making a push. It came back and stabilized, and again, it did push up a bit more. There's a little bit of a zone sitting in front of it right now. This one's just not super clean, You can see there's a bit up here, but there's quite a bit of, movement. But in 4 hours, yeah, it's gone up a little bit, but is this really strong momentum? Is a big movement? The answer is no. So there's really not a whole lot we can do off of that one, right? On the hourly, you can see it's kind of the same idea. I mean, we got one push, but it didn't even come back to this level. It didn't hit anything on the top side. So it's just kind of in a grind right now. It's kind of like, we don't know anything about the euro and we don't know anything about the pound. So just going to let them just kind of move around. Why do I call it the Harry Potter trade? Here, I'll show you. Hold on. Break, retest, and drop. Right? The lightning bolt. Right? Just because, again, it drops, it pulls back up and goes down. And it's backwards, obviously, but that's okay. But break, retest, drop. It's okay, James. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So that's why I call it a Harry Potter trade. Yeah, it's the zigzag. Yep, that's all. Nothing more. Because it's not even like a lightning bolt. Like some of them draw like the lightning bolt. They're like, oh, it's a lightning bolt. It zigzag. No, it does what? It's literally, it's like if you looked in a mirror of a drop, retest, and then break. It's exactly what it is. It's like a dark Harry Potter, right? Because it isn't like the dark side of everything, like the flip side. It's what is a dark Harry Potter? I got to come up with code signs so you guys know. That's what it is. Code signs. So euro pound, again, really doesn't necessarily excite me too much. A lot of sideways movement, a lot of grinding. I just don't really see a lot of opportunity in this one right now. If anything, we're kind of smack here in the middle. A little bit of a base, but again, if I'm using this as a top and this as a bottom, we're kind of smack in the middle, a little bit above middle with a little bit of a push, and there's only a very, very small area. So I like it to move a little bit farther either way, or at least paint some nice levels. I don't even really see any levels that I necessarily like. It's just been too choppy back and forth for euro pound. Euro yen. You can see euro yen, just amazing movement. Missed that bottom side just by a little tiny bit. Skyrocketed all the way back up again. Ended up filling the gap, just going just slightly above the gap, just by a little tiny bit, right? Little tiny bit before pulling back. You can see there on the hourly. I'll remove this, and again, the indicator drew that zone. This zone, again, valid zone, right? Let's click off the time. You guys can see this one actually broke through. This was a good at 7 a.m. and the first one was at 2 a.m. Oops, no, not E. Wait, hold on. E. Bam. So you can see both the 1 to 3 and the 1 to 5 got hit on this one. Had you been trading the euro yen, not a bad little trade setup. But again, this is not taking the gap. It's the zone that the gap actually used to go to the downside. The risk on this one was a bit more than we normally take in one of these positions. This one is about 25 pips. Not huge, but again, with as much volatility as we had, not a horrible position. And again, we're sitting down here on the hourly level. So, again, hourly, 30-minute. Again, you got to find the one that makes the most sense. There, here's the 30-minute. and it puts us kind of smack in the middle. And again, had we used the small one, sure, it hit here and went all the way down again. You wouldn't have made the first entry, but you wouldn't have made the second entry. So it didn't matter which one you were really pulling from. It wasn't necessarily huge, but on the hourly, it was a kind of a, a better, kind of a better grab. All right, on that one. All right, there. Yeah, it's pulling from this zone right here. Okay. All right. Where we are now, it's a little bit harder to say. I feel like it's still in its upward kind of healthiness, right? I mean, again, we turned off of a larger supply, larger demand zone. Nice rally up, a pullback, a rally farther, which went higher, and now we're in a pullback. So I mean, we're technically in an uptrend, at least on the 4-hour. And again, there's nothing in here that says, hey, listen, we need to short this until we really get up here into the 120.49 range. Going down to an hourly, kind of the same thing. We don't really have much clean until up top here. I mean, we've went a little bit higher. So I mean, again, we have pierced at this point. And again, you guys can see if you're looking for that level earlier, it's right there. Okay. But once this one went above, it erases this one, obviously, because it's a pierce level. But there was your trade setup. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we got what 128 pips, right? Until we get that high. It's basically it's one ATR. It's obviously it says 143 pips, but this ATR was very much smaller last week before we got this back and forth of 150 pips every day. Okay. So whoops. So still looking for, again, that zone up top. Okay. Euro New Zealand. So there's your daily on Euro New Zealand. Again, this just funky, crazy trade. Again, there's your 4-hour. Are we basing? I'm sorry. Are we trending? No, we are just absolutely basing back and forth. Dropping it down even to a 30-minute. You guys can see. I mean, even though I try to make it, really fun looking, there's just not much there. We're staying within a pretty narrow range. Again, it is 80 pips. I mean, I guess I could make it like this because it looks super boring, but even stretch it so far. We talked about the two levels. We talked about actually there was a level over here, but really I'd much rather get in if we get a bit higher. Just this kind of bouncing back and forth is a bit risky, trying to kind of pull the tops and bottoms of it. Like I said, Euro New Zealand. I do believe New Zealand is a very at-risk currency right now. Being small, being very economy small, I do think that they are quite exposed a lot to this. Because like I said, if they don't, they don't necessarily, the production hasn't been pumping. Production will come back, but if nobody's buying Chinese goods, they stop producing it again. So until the demand comes back overseas, they're unable to have that type of recovery. And if we're just seeing it start to hit other countries, I think they'll be a bit delayed for when they're going to actually need the resources from, obviously Australia and New Zealand. Okay. We covered this one already, and then Euro Singapore. As you can see, so close, retraced, and then pulled back again. 4-hour, same thing. Quite big wicks. Again, all the Singapore ones are kind of funky right now. Again, we have a zone painted below. We didn't even make it that far, so I mean, do what you want with it. I don't think this is of all the different Singapore pairs, this is the one Singapore pair that I'm just, I'm just not, in love with necessarily. Okay. I like some of the other ones. I think some of the other ones are in a little bit better of a place. I think the euro with as much as it was going up strong, now that it's getting weak, it's kind of like weak on top of weak. And I don't know. I just think there's a higher level of risk in this one right now. It's just my feeling on it. Okay. So let's jump over and go to the pound. So pound dollar still down 157 for the day. Pound yen is total for the day. Pips. We've moved 6 pips in 24 hours. So not as much excitement there, right? Pound yen first. Daily, that's where we are. Right? Again, this just happens to be where we are. There is definitely a bunch of movement in this one. So again, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Now, here is that gap that we talked about on the 4 hours. We marked it off last night and said, yeah, it's a bit big. But as you can see, we ended up tagging the bottom side of it. Looking at this on a 1 hour, you can see that was kind of the setup. So it didn't make it all the way up top. We talked about this before. We would have much rather seen it come up to this level. It didn't quite get there. Didn't quite get there. Now, the bottom one actually did work out well. Had you have taken that one, most people were waiting for this gap to fill and then hit and then kind of turn and run this back to the downside. It didn't quite make it. It got pretty close, but close is not entry, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. Now, bottom side, you did well if you would have played this from the bottom here. You guys can see that not only did it hit your 1 to 3, it did hit your 1 to 5. It did that before it was able to make its reversal back at the top before it turned and flipped. So great target at the bottom. The risk level in this one was a bit big for my liking. I mean, we're on the hourly chart, and the risk level in this one was 48 pips. You know, you guys know me. I don't typically take a 48 pip risk. I did not take this one, but as you guys can see, valid setup off the bottom, turn, and flip. I was actually looking for this one on the top side, and when it didn't, I was just kind of like, whatever. So I'd like this one to calm down just a little bit. Little risk averse to this pair. Like I said, the ATR right now on this one is 200 pips, the daily. I went down to 30 and it didn't come down lower. You were on the 30-minute on this one? Oh, you were looking for this little tiny guy down here. Yeah. Yeah, this one had about 23 pips. Yeah. Close. It would have been a great trade, right? I mean, again, that's why you got to kind of focus between these two. And again, hourly you hit. 30 minutes. I like the 30-minute one better, but it just didn't matter. Now, had you dropped the 30-minute again, you could have taken this one off the top here and run this one back down. But again, kind of a big zone. I wouldn't have necessarily taken that one. Debbie is just scrabbing again. Oh, she's a tier 1 sub. Oh, I was like, wait, that's different. That's different. See, that was a sub, not a follow, I think. So it didn't do like the big loud music. But thank you for the sub, Debbie. I appreciate it. All right, so again, Ernest knows my frustration when this happens. Like I said, I'm definitely one of those people that's a bit more risk averse. The pound, and guys, here it is. Look, I mean, your daily ATR right now is 200 pips. I'm sorry, it just switched to 201 pips, right? Yeah, 201 pips is what the daily ATR on this one. We were at 91, 92 a little while, a couple weeks ago, right? When we were kind of sitting over here, we were in the low 90s, right? And then obviously this just kind of jacks everything a bit crazy. So, yeah, I mean, when you double your ATR in less than 5 days, again, be a bit cautious with it. Okay. Let's see, what do we got? Pound CAD. So pound CAD is trying to retrace that gap. It didn't unfortunately hit it in an area where we would be willing to sell it. It just didn't get high enough. It got close, but not quite high enough. And now, again, looking across the time frames, you can see it's trying. It's putting lower highs in every time it makes another kind of push forward. Has not filled the gap though. Has not filled the gap. And look at this: one here, one here, one here, and we're not even pulling up and touching these things, which is always kind of a pain, right? You always want them to go up to give us kind of another entry. We're not even getting them, so kind of hard to trade pound CAD right now. Looking across at pound dollar. Again, pound dollar is down 158 for the day. You guys can see on the hourly, it ended up actually banging off that zone. But here's what we had on the day, right? Minus 160 pips. Basically nothing but straight down red today. Looking at the 4-hour, you guys can see again. I mean, heck, how about this as a turn? Like we had an area here, and it did bounce and pop up again. There was one entry here, as well as another entry here that was up about 1.5 to 2 times one. So again, you would not have lost any money on that bounce. But man, look at this thing. I mean, it's just heading straight. It wants to go all the way back down, right? Here is the hourly. Again, one here, and then again, this pop, push, and I wouldn't even take this for a Harry Potter. Right? Harry Potter is dangerous on this one because it didn't even leave the area. It stayed. Look at this. Did you get the black space? Nope. Down, up. No black space in here. So again, not a true Harry Potter because it was done in one candle. It did pull up. It did grab some orders before it finally pounded through. And again, stopped down here on the 30-minute. And again, I mentioned before, this was definitely an area we were looking for. We were kind of trying to be safe with top and bottom. It blew through the zone, but again, took a first bounce off of it. You would have been, again, you would not have lost any money on this trade. You would have been up 1.5 to 1. You got to move your stop loss to break even on that one. And no Harry Potter entry. Okay. Even on the 15-minute, I don't think we actually got it. Now, even on the 15-minute, you would have not gotten the white space. So close, but no cigar on this one. And again, we did come down, bounce off a 30-minute. Actually, I would say it's more of an hourly zone. The hourly zone is the one that was tested. And this is quite small. I'd be really, really surprised if this is where it turned and all of a sudden started the rally back up and go crazy. I mean, this is a very, very small zone, and it's okay. I'd rate this probably a B minus. It did spend a lot of time here. It didn't leave in fast, with fast, powerful candles. It kind of limped its way out, and it did a little bit of a retest and came up, and then, 2 nice candles from there. So the retest was okay, but the way that it was formed was just kind of like, not great. Okay. But again, it is right now, it is the turning point. We have a green, we have a red, and we have a green currently right now that'll close in about 13 minutes. So, I mean, it is showing us that we are technically, in an uptrend now if this closes in the next couple of minutes. On the 30 minute, you can see not a lot of areas that we can actually get into this trade. And again, it just barely pierced this area on the 30 minute. On the hour, it looks better. The 30 minute, again, it's rather small. We pierced it and bounced. Yeah. So this is going to be one we'll play tomorrow morning with news as well. Don't forget, tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the annual budget release for the pound. Considered a high risk, right? Or a high impact, right? We have this thing right here. So that's going to be the first thing you have to look out for. And then obviously the two US data. So we really got to worry about all these things as well. I mean, in all honesty, at 7:30 this could move, at 8:30 it could move, at 10 this could move. 10:30 probably not so much, but in these three news releases right here, and even maybe potentially this, depending on how bad the GDP number is, this thing could be offering some bounces. So as far as my analysis of how you could trade this one, I think you're going to have to really focus on what price looks like, where it's at on this 30-minute time frame, maybe 15, 20 minutes before the actual news release is really going to be the best way to play it. At this point, you guys know that it has the ability to jump, like this one candle here is a jump of 207 pips. Or wait, how much was it? I thought it was 107. Yeah, it's 107. Sorry, not 207. But it can jump 100 pips in one 30-minute time frame. So again, with crazy news, I think that's why you need to be a little bit cautious of this one. So look to see where we are right beforehand, and again, that's going to be the best way to play it. Okay. Looking at pound Aussie, we saw this before. Basically, just sideways movement. Look at this, kind of sideways bouncing back. We're not even hitting areas where we can even get in for a good entry. So nothing crazy there. Pound Singapore. Again, we're pushing back down again. It's making an attempt. We're sitting 50% mark of the 4-hour top and bottom. Actually, I think because it's the daily, right? Yeah, we're sitting right in the middle of the daily top and bottom. Until we get to either of those two, it's just not worth the risk. This one is a spread of 4 right now, and it's actually been popping into the 5 range, which again is twice as much as it normally is. Um, yeah, yeah. So be cautious, right? Again, any of the Singapore's ones are crazy. This one again will move. This has a daily ATR of 171, so it's not quite as big as the pound yen now, but it's getting quite large. All right. Pound Swiss. Eh. Again, this one we had a setup on this one. It came up. It actually did trigger a couple different times. You guys could have got in here. There's one here. Again, it hit again and went again. So this is good for two different attempts at this point. You were good here. ATR on this one, or the spread on this one right now is 2, so it's not too bad, but it's not really moving much. I mean, it's literally bouncing back and forth between the gap and the lows here. Now, these are not as low as the actual kind of that big explosion from Sunday, so we do know there are buyers sitting a bit below this area. They're just kind of hiding right now, and it's not necessarily clean in format with where they are. I'd like to see a nice, clean, something similar to this, but get a little bit more of a rally off it. This zone up top is not bad if we can kind of bounce back around. That's actually not a bad zone. It was retested here. It barely grazed it before it pushed to the downside. So that's not bad. What are we at? 122.08 to 122.31. Not the tiniest zone, but, you know, not bad. Not bad, right? I mean, it's the best one we have sitting on this chart right now, and that's found on the pound Swiss on the on the hourly. And then pound New Zealand, yeah, just not into the pound New Zealand right now. That was the daily spike all the way up, all the way back down again, and we're collapsing a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's super clean exit. You guys can see here on the hourly, a little bit of kind of a rake up, but nothing kind of explosive. This is not bad. I'd watch this out. Watch out for this later, but we got a bit of room before we can actually get there. And again, the hourly on this one right now is 67 pips, so it's as big as some pairs were last week. Right? Talking about like dollar yen, dollar Swiss, dollar CAD, Aussie dollar. This one right now has an ATR of basically what they were doing an entire day. Okay. On my lacrosse pair. Kind of the same thing, guys. We're not really seeing a ton of movement on any of the New Zealand pairs. As you can see on the daily, they are all in consolidation phases. You can see the pound yen on the 4-hour did pull up to a zone that we were talking about. Again, looking for a break of it. We're kind of in that area now, but smaller time frame. There was some things in here, and you're talking about about 100 pip move today. So, it's starting to come back to life. I don't even know where these are. Let's see. Let me pull some of these up. This guy, that was what we were looking for, a break, and the break didn't happen. Um, we're kind of in a zone right now, right? Um, like I said, chop in, chop out, chop in, chop out, chop out, and it's not really pushing higher. What I would probably do is I would get rid of this zone right here, at least on the 4 hour. I would be focused. The baby's banging on the door. I'd be looking for something along those lines there. You're talking about 66.85 to 67.13. So, a little bit bigger than we normally see on pound yen. I'm sorry, New Zealand yen. But this pair has the ability to move right now with, everything going on. Especially, I mean, again, it was obviously, affected by what the weekend looks like. Okay. Um, eh, so we'll see. Like I said, on a 30-minute, there's some small stuff, but I'd wait till it got, breaks this zone. This one, it's already been hit twice. Wait till it gets back up top before you start looking to get in this one. Um, pound yen is the other one. I'm sorry, New Zealand dollar is the other one. As you can see, we had the spike back up on the 4 hour. Didn't quite get to where we needed to be. Definitely consolidation. This one was kind of a bit crazy. And then even on the lower time frame here, you guys can see there's kind of things all over the place, right? That's what we're going to look at. We're not really pulling back to any clean levels, and this is just garbage. I wouldn't do anything with this one. So this one I don't like as much. Like I said, the smallest thing you can do is this one up top, which coincides with what we have on a basing level here. But that's on a 4 hour, and we're talking about something that is about 30 pips. This one had an ATR of 40, a week ago. So, taking 35 pips risk on this one because of all the volatility we've had this week, when that was what the ATR was last week, eh, not the best idea. Okay, I'm gonna skip the other New Zealand pairs, go down to the dollar. All right, so dollar yen. Dollar yen today, we are up 144. So yeah, so obviously start to finish, you guys can see here. Here's the bottom of the range, and the top of the range was here. It is 391 pips top to bottom on this daily. That is absolutely enormous. The ATR on this one is up to 162 right now. This one had an ATR of I think 46. It was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Yeah, it's a little bit emotional right now, right? You guys can see we didn't quite make it. And again, here on the weekly level, you can see how much indecision there is on a weekly, right? Taking it down to an hourly, you can see we ended up coming up, and this gap area got front run. So we'd marked this off last night. Again, this is on the hourly. When you're talking about where the gap was, there was the gap miss. Okay. Would have been a great trade. Yes. Did we get front run? Yes. Nothing we can do about it. It did what it was supposed to do. It just, again, we got, it left the station, unfortunately, without us. We were unable to get into it. Now, bottom side, there was a little bit of a play in here. If you guys were looking to take something on a lower time frame, I don't think the indicator pulled it. No, the indicator was unable to grab it. That was more of one of these levels where you see the ascending wicks. You guys know that I like that pattern, in this area right here. And you can see we kind of grazed the bottom of it. So, not a bad trade. Again, 30-minute, we ended up going higher. I would have used this zone, but once it turned here, I've been a bit leery, probably taking this one off. I was unable to catch this one as I was getting ready for practice. You're talking here about 4 o'clock in the about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, I was rounding up kids and dealing with lacrosse stuff. So didn't catch this one here at 3. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like this one as much right now. I think this is really kind of a daytime pair at this point. I mean, no real news today. Everything was media driven. Tomorrow, at least we have some U.S. news that will obviously affect this one. CPI is going to affect a few different things as well as the overall stock market. And again, this one will kind of move in unison with that. I think that's how we have to handle the dollar yen right now. I'm not doing much overnight with that. Dollar CAD, again, pushing down. This is the daily. Here's your 4-hour look at this. Again, we came back up, ended up hitting right on your 4-hour. As you guys can see right here. Okay, I'll turn this one off. You ended up hitting this trigger here at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Right, we marked off this as the gap fill. 1 o'clock in the morning, not only did it hit your 1 to 3, which is right here, but you ended up coming all the way down and almost hitting this one. And I think I mentioned this last night that I don't think that I would hold it all the way to the 1 to 5. But either way, you ended up hitting your 1 to 1. I'm sorry, your 1 to 3, came back up and ended up dropping to 1 to 3. So you had more than enough opportunity in this one. You would have banked approximately 60 pips on this to the downside. And again, once we, this would have been, your first attempt. Here's another push. Here's another push. And it kind of went down, came back up, went down, and then broke. So, you got your trade. You got your 60 out of it. Good trade if you're able to grab that one on the Swiss today, early morning. All right.
Where we are now, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is the best zone, and there's not really anything in here that I'm in love with. Going up, kind of the same thing. I mean, that's okay, but nothing kind of screams in here. You're like, yep, going long, going short on the dollar Swiss. I think this will be a kind of failure to go higher, failure to go lower, kind of get in a little bit, more recent term is about the only way that you're going to be able to play this one, for me anyway. I don't see anything here that screams great level. And the ATR on this one is actually at the 97 pips as well. This one was definitely at like 36 or 38. This one was one of the lowest ones last week. So yeah, slightly jacked up on the extra high jolt. And then dollar Singapore, you guys can see again, nice kind of pullback, moving a bit sideways, rallying. On the 4 hour, we are bouncing off of a zone right now. That zone I think is a bit large, though. I think I mentioned this last night. It's only 24. Actually, I guess it's not horrible. This one is down at a 2, closer to a 2 than a 3 pip spread. But I don't think on the hourly this one has as good of a setup. Yeah, the hourly is a little bit funky. The candle that it drew off of, let me see on the 30 minutes. It's okay. It's okay. I wouldn't get into it now. If you're in, you're okay. But if you're not in it, don't try to jump in this one now. It's a bit too late for that entry if you're looking at the dollar Singapore. Okay. And let's see, is R hit? There's your 1 to 3 level sitting down here at 138.92. So if you're in, you're fine. If you're not, don't chase. Okay. All right. So that's the U.S. pair. So let's jump over to the fun ones. Okay. Here's the Nasdaq. Here's the daily, right? Down, up, down, kind of back and forth, right? And again, there was some rallies, there's some popping today. The 4 hours kind of all over the place. Here's the hourly, and again, really funky, weird levels in here. Like I said, this is so funky, right, to the downside. I mean, we ended up hitting the top, but who the heck is going to take that level? Nobody, right? I wouldn't take this one, guys. Definitely not on there. On the 30-minute, we were unable to get in. Here, we were unable to get in. Here, we got front run. We weren't able to get in. So Nasdaq has been kind of those ones. It's been close a few times, but unfortunately, the entries have been a little bit weird. You just can't get in, right? Missed it on multiple different occasions. Still holding for here up top. We did put a new level of supply in. I do like this level up here, right where the gap was. I think that would be great if we can get back up. Of these two levels, this one has basically been tested. It got front run just by a very, very little tiny bit. You would not have gotten filled had you used the actual zone itself. Probably more of an aggressive entry. The lower one I actually like a lot better. Again, it came down pretty quick. Spent one candle here and then launched itself further, and that was more or less the bottom. So I think that is giving, probably the best opportunity at this point in time to be able to take advantage of kind of a near-term movement. But again, it's nighttime right now. This is a 30-minute chart, but if we were going into the morning in the same exact area, I'd be looking at the bottom level here, and I'd be looking at this zone up here. So there and there. Those two levels would be the ones that I'm looking for on a more of a near-term basis. Okay. Looking at the Dow, this is what we had going on the Dow today. Okay, again, kind of similar, up, down, left, right, sideways. On the weekly, we still got a bit more to go. On the hourly, same idea. Again, that was kind of a really strange drawn candle. We did hit it and did go higher, but just the risk level would have been a bit too much for me to take in my eyes. Looking at it on a 30-minute, there was really no entry. Okay, I don't think. Yeah, it did have it marked off. So you did have this zone here, which actually wasn't bad. We were looking at, there was your trade setup off of that one. We hit, what was that, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, so that would have been a valid one. Actually, I missed that one. I didn't see that one earlier today. I had looked at these early morning, but hadn't looked at them since. So there was a Dow trade you guys could have taken. This top zone, I would ignore that one. I wouldn't pay attention to it. I would probably look. I know it's painted a new level here, but I would be focusing still on this bottom level. I'd still be using this level. Safe to kind of get in there. And that is what? 23,738 to 23,446. Again, that could be a Nadex or a touch bracket type entry. Looking for something in that level if you can get it near a, Yeah, honestly, even spreads right now have been great. Like you've been blowing spreads out. Like one of the things about the low volatility market that we've had up until now, right, up until the coronavirus, was we just weren't getting enough movement for something like spreads. Spreads, if you're grabbing them near the floor or the ceiling right now, have been awesome because the thing is just going in one direction and it's been blowing it out the top on the other side, right? Touch bracket's the same thing. If you're able to get in them, you get a little bit more duration because it is a touch bracket. It's not expiring. This has been the market to play those things in. Fortunately, again, the volatility is a little high, so the prices are a little bit jacked up. But again, things are moving. All right, so this would have been one you could have taken today. Um, Probably a still valid zone. Look for that tomorrow morning as well as again, if we can rally up top, looking for it over here as well. S&P, looking at this one on the daily, again, we basically just missed that zone, right? On the 4 hour, you can see again, this one has been more back and forth, where the other one's a little bit more clean, right? This one has been a little bit more muted in that range. Here's the hourly. There was again a same setup. Let's see. Again, 11 o'clock this morning. That same little area that you could have taken off the S&P. What was it? 27.34 to 26.97. Again, large range. You wouldn't be taking that much inside of a futures contract. Um, Not much you can do about it. But again, was it a valid entry? Yeah. And in situations like this, um, again, this is where you use something like Nadex, where you can make it a little bit smaller. Um, yeah, it's the one when you popped off. Yeah, I mean, honestly, of these three, James, I don't know. Let me see. Let's see. I feel like mm, I feel like this one would have been a little bit close. I feel like that would have been a little bit close to grab. You know, like I don't know if you would have gotten your fill on it. It literally just, I mean, it barely touches the top of that line, and I just feel with the bid ask spread in there being a little bit wider than normal, I just feel like the S&P would have been a little bit harder to grab. Because if you look at these two and you can dial it down and say, hey, listen, on the Dow, I was able to definitely grab that zone. We definitely got some clearance into it. I definitely would have got filled on it. And by the way, it turned and kind of popped in. I mean, the turn is very, very similar in both these pairs. It looks very, very similar, right, between the two. But I feel like the S&P you may have had gotten a little bit harder over time. Yeah, I mean, well, the problem with Nadex too is Nadex is always a little bit higher, right? Their indicative value is always slightly higher, which kind of makes Nadex funky sometimes. So I don't know. You may or may not have gotten into this one, but it's close. Like I said, it's close. If it made sense for the price that you got in, then yeah, go more power to you. Um, yeah, it was there. Just read this one. Maybe not got it. So gold. Okay, gold on the daily again. Push back up, right? Here's your 4 hour. Now 4 hour, we've obviously put a cap in. We started to build some levels to the downside. Um, Here's what we're looking at on the hourly. So what I dislike about this one is there's not really too much that is clean. It's pretty choppy in here. Drop into a 30-minute, you can see we get a little bit more levels in, right? I mean, obviously something's going on down here. We hit here, we bounce, we hit here and bounce. As far as the levels go here, I mean, yeah, they left pretty good, but again, we got one here, one here, one here. There's multiple kind of steps in this. I don't know. I was looking at this earlier today. I don't know that I would trade many of these in gold because a lot of these, again, you got front run here, you got front run here. This how you make it up. This one we're finally into it, but again, we were bouncing off a level that was a little bit better as well. So, eh, I don't know. I just feel like we're forcing this one to try to take us to the downside. Um, and again, kind of where we've moved and what we bounced off of and what we're close. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's hard because, like I said, you're in this area here, and this is what the stop. I mean, these literally are at the exact same bottoms. Okay, something obviously stopped this enormous this free fall from what did we do? We opened this one up at what 1685, and then it bounced at 1642. So an absolutely enormous move. One candle from here all the way down. You guys can see it's yellow. Um, And what stopped this is what stopped us here. So because this is rallying off, I don't know that I'm willing to take a short. There is a level in there. There's definitely buyers that stepped in. And again, it's pushed up, it's pulled back down again. It's punching through, right? So it looks to me that this definitely wants to punch through this zone. You guys can see here, up. Here, I'll make it a little bigger for you guys. Punched up, came down. Punched up, came down. Punched up, came down. And again, we're putting in higher lows here, right? So it looks like it's trying to build up steam to punch through these levels. I would ignore this one again, even on a 15-minute. This one's not bad. Again, we got this nice, rally sideways drop, and then a little bit of retest, and then the retest really kind of exploded out. So that one may not be bad for something on the smaller time frame, along those lines. Again, maybe take something, have a small position on that one. All right, silver, we bounced off this on the daily, so I'm going to be a bit cautious of this one. You guys can see again, large drop in. I would not have taken anything off this 4-hour zone. It's way too big. Since it's popped up and restabilized kind of this 50% mark, it just kind of stayed in the same area. Has had a little bit hard over time. Now, we had drawn this area here, and again, we were looking for some type of sell off of that. It did come all the way down, bounce off this level, which again, that's a wick over wick. It's kind of like, I would not have taken a long off of that one. That would definitely be a target, but, we were out well in advance of that one. So, is it really trending right now? I feel like silver's lost in all of this today, right? I mean, here's where we are now. Here, let me reset this. Here's where we are right now, and here's where we were last night, right in here. Okay, so we're really in the exact same spot with really no movement whatsoever. Yeah, because look, right now it says 2233 down there, and 2233 is right here. Okay, so we're in the exact same spot as what we were. A little bit of movement that popped up, a little popped down again, but it stayed really in the same exact area. So no trending market, not necessarily interested in trading it. And then obviously oil is the one that most people were keeping an eye on today. You can see oil crashed all the way down, and we have a bit of a retracement. Again, you guys can see it did literally bounce right off that weekly. There's the overlay from the weekly position, and now it's pushing back up again. So again, these larger time frames are ones not to be messed with. And again, 4-hour, you can see it's building back above the gap. It's attempting to now close it. And again, on the hourly, you can see it as well. And what do we see on the hourly? Again, we see newer highs put in, again, making its attempt to fill it, but we're seeing a low, a higher low, a higher low, a higher low, and a higher low. So it's definitely in a smaller, again, the range is getting smaller, right? I mean, you'd have to mark this one here. And again, that's not a bad draw. I'm off just slightly, right? There's your, right? Touching, 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 touching. So again, you're following this trend line up, but at the same time, you have to draw it this way. So it's not a directly up. It's not, an equidistant channel. It is definitely consolidating in, but it is consolidating to the top side. So I do believe this one will be good for a long, and again, maybe back up into probably up into the $40 range is where we're looking. But I wouldn't take this one in the overnight. I'd wait till we get with oil inventories tomorrow morning. I'll touch base and in the morning and look on that one. And again, that I'm going to drop down to these lower time frames and see if we can grab something that's nice. What are we overlaying there? The 30 minutes? Something along those lines. All right, again, target would be somewhere up in here at this 41.71 area. So don't get too excited. No, there's not. I don't know. I mean, there's somewhat of a gap thing there, but it's going to be. I'm not going to trade in the overnight. It's not for me. But again, you can see it is getting smaller to the top side. All right, so that's basically all the pairs, guys. Like I said, going into tomorrow, big things that you're looking for, obviously, early morning is going to be the pound numbers. The GDP numbers, obviously, always important. The manufacturing production, we'll see here whether or not they've started to slow, lower production levels yet. I'm sure they will. I'm sure that's why it's already picked a point too. But it's not necessarily a major concern yet. Everybody's expecting it. It's already kind of been priced into the market. If it stays at 0.3, that actually will be pretty positive for the pound, and we'll see how it moves. The annual budget release, like I said, that is it's not a data release. And again, annual budget release is also considered a fundamental change, right? Because it's basically saying the money we have available. It's not like we didn't, it's not a reading number that really doesn't change much. It's an actual, this is what we have going forward to work with. So that will be a fundamental change, so be careful of any type of retracements on that one. And then CPI numbers at 8:30. I think there'll be some, between that and then everybody will be waiting for,
this stimulus package that Trump is talking about. Okay, this right here, the emergency funds. Now, if those emergency funds things come out tomorrow, yeah, there'll be some. The market will move. The market will move. Yeah, and this guy's right. You probably see gold blow through the top to the Fed. It's so funny. So honestly, I love the comments in these things are the best. Okay. All right, guys. So with that being said, let me bring the stream elements across. Only registered tonight, so your chances of winning are quite high. I know you guys like to snipe it at the end. Will's like, I'm going to make sure I get in. Who are we missing? Josh is not here. I guess somebody doesn't need a tank of gas. Debbie is in with one. Let's see who we're missing. We're missing James. We're missing Ernest. Let's see. Will's in. There's you two. Who else are we missing today? I know we have more on. Sean's in. Will was in first. Marina's in. Maybe that's it. I don't know. That's all who's talking. I can't tell who else is on here right now. Yeah, it doesn't give me that option. You knew that was coming. All right. So with that said, I will close down the giveaway. And let's see. I will draw the winner. And the winner is Debbie. Nice, Debbie. Look at that. Debbie subscribes, and all of a sudden, bam. And I don't even have the setting on to where subscribers get more. But congratulations. Debbie wins tonight. Where is Debbie? Where is Debbie? There we go. Debbie coming up the ranks. All right, so I know. Look at that. Well, she had a 67% chance, or a 16.67% chance. So it was better than normal, right? Better than normal, right? Vanessa still having internet options. Wealth Builder was making some money today. So again, better than average chance to win today. Normally it's around like 11, right? So good job, Debbie. Proud of you. Proud of you. Debbie, I want to start seeing some things in the profits category. Okay. You need to start posting in the profits category. All right, guys. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I will catch you guys tomorrow night. No lacrosse meeting tomorrow night, so I will be on, and hopefully I'm finally all caught up tomorrow. Get those pip chips over there for you guys. All right, guys. Have a good night. I'll catch you tomorrow.